Welcome back, friends. On the Block, part two, season preview. So we finished off last with the Orlando Magic.
Mm-hmm.
We're now going to go to a Western Conference team that's going to look a lot different than it did last year, Houston Rockets. There's been talk. We know that James Harden doesn't want in. We had a segment last episode on James Harden's behavior, his antics, his partying in Vegas, his core. We talked about a lot of things. I don't like what he's doing. He hijacked the team. We don't want to spend too much time getting into it.
Core was a nice way of putting it.
Core is a nice word, right? But what did they do? So they ended up bringing in John Wall. They brought in DeMarcus Cousins, two guys coming off Achilles tears. Both of them looked surprisingly, I like Wall a lot more than Cousins.
Former teammates.
Yeah, Kentucky guys. Yeah. And then Christian Wood, who's, the complete opposite of those two. Young, energetic, on the rise. I like that contract for them as well. PJ Tucker's still there. Been complaining a little bit because he didn't get that extension. Where do you see this team? I'm assuming Harden's getting traded. I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, if Harden stays on the team, then you probably have one projection for them, and then if they, depending on what they trade him for, is the other. His antics have gotten worse. Yesterday, I guess there were reports that he was throwing the basketball at rookies' heads and stuff like that. He's
trying to get out as soon as possible.
He's trying to get out as soon as possible. He's not happy. And then you got these reports that the Raptors and the Celtics have turned into
sweepstakes.
The sweepstakes, and they're the main contenders. The Celtics supposedly offering Jaylen Brown plus the Raptors with Pascal Siakam. I'll be the first to tell you, and a lot of guys, and I got shot down on Twitter about this from a few people. I don't want James Harden here. Like he goes, and again, not that he's not a phenomenal basketball player, maybe one of the better scorers of all time. He is. He just doesn't fit. He doesn't fit what the Raptors do. His mentality, do I see Nick Nurse being okay with a guy going off and partying after every game and then coming back?
You're not going to party actually they're in Tampa, which we didn't talk about either. Which you could, yeah. He might catch the Rona. That's a guy that could catch the Rona.
Catch the Rona. You got the little baby's birthday party. Shout out the little baby. It's again, he's just like the type of guy that you need a stable situation. And again, I saw some crazy proposals. Pascal with Fred and OG.
Fred. No, I didn't see that. The reason why, because OG just got signed, so you can't trade him. What I saw was Fred, Norm, and then 3 firsts. Sorry, no. OG, I'm losing my train of thought now. Pascal is the centerpiece.
Yes, Pascal.
Pascal and Norm.
Okay.
And 3 firsts is what that's the one that I kept seeing.
Okay. So let's.
We want to keep Houston though. I don't want to do too much. Yeah. Let's go back to Houston. How do you think that they get in the playoffs?
If Harden stays there and he plays, I would say they probably end up being the 8th seed around there.
If he plays the year, I think they're a 6 or a 5.
Again, it did get looking at the situation, because again we're gonna go through some teams there. Are they better than Phoenix?
Yes. If Harden's there, yes.
They're better than Golden State?
Yes.
You think they're better than Golden State?
If Harden's there and playing.
Portland, Utah, Denver, Dallas. I tell you, it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting situation.
Again, it's tough to handicap them because we don't know if he's going to be there.
If he gets traded and he gets traded for let's say he gets traded for that situation, and they get Pascal and they get
Pascal, Norman, 3 firsts.
Pascal, Norman, 3 firsts. Terrible trade for the Raptors. So considering that he's probably going to walk after next year anyways.
He has 2 seasons, yeah, this year and next.
Will Pascal and Norm in exchange for Harden end up putting them through? I would probably say. That's actually it could be kind of tough.
I guess the question
is Norm, depending on what his role is, Pascal and what he would do if what he would add to John Wall and Cousins. I think that'd be pretty dicey, actually, in my opinion. I think Harden's ceiling obviously is a higher ceiling than Pascal. Again, if he gets traded, depending on what he gets traded for, right now I have them out right now because I think he's going to be a malcontent. And again, that they don't make the playoffs with him there in regards to that. If he's on his best behavior and he's balling out and he forgets to trade demands, then you're probably going to be the likely one that's going to be right. But they're really a tricky situation right now based on what I've seen. I have them out.
Okay, I guess I can just say it like this: if Harden's there playing, even if there's stuff going on off the court, because there has been stuff going off the court this entire time, I think if Harden plays and he's there, they're a playoff team. Where? I don't know. If I had to guess 6 or 7, but they're a playoff team for me if he stays. But I think he's getting traded.
Okay.
Interesting team to transition to because I'm going to ask you that question after. So Memphis Grizzlies, these are ESPN rankings by the way. Memphis Grizzlies at 17. They have a lot of guys that I either like, and I would see them as overachievers. Guys like Brandon Clark, Even like Jaren Jackson Jr. was a high pick, but he's always hurt.
Yeah.
He's not going to be there, and Justice Winslow as well, another guy that's pretty solid when playing. I don't know when they'll be back. I don't think they know when they'll be back. John Morant, everybody, every casual fan, even some real NBA analysts are very high on him. I'm not. I think he's a very good player, but I just don't see him as a guy I don't think he'll ever get to Lillard status, and Lillard's obviously incredible. I just don't. I think he's too small. He's going to get injured. His style of play, he's too small. And the question I was going to ask is, do you think that they're a better playoff contender than Houston? I don't think they are, especially with all these guys hurt.
I like another guy. I like Brooks.
Dylan Brooks is a good scorer.
I like Dylan Brooks is another guy there.
Valanciunas is still there. Shout out to JV.
JV, I love the JV. They're one of those situations where they remind me a lot of the Clippers before Kawhi and Paul George got there, where they play
the Lou Williams.
They're like they have some quality, but they're rough and hustle. And again, they were before the bubble started in the playoffs, right? They had that 8 seed, and then they ended up dropping off and so forth. Again, good young talent. I think Clark has, when healthy, can be a top, I don't want to say top end player, but I think a top 50 player in the league. Jackson's another guy. They have potential there. Would I rank them ahead of Houston? To answer your question, probably not. Based on the fact that, again, the Rockets, depending on the situation is with Harden, probably have a little bit more of a top end talent.
Yeah.
But overall, they'll be in the mix, but I don't think they'll be in the playoffs. But again, we'll see what happens with John Morant. Again, rookie of the year, and so forth. But like I said, we'll see what his ceiling goes. But right now, I would have them on the outside looking in.
Same. Indiana Pacers. We have them. ESPN has them at 16. Projections here. ESPN 39-33. Brogdon, Oladipo, Sabonis, T.J. Warren, Miles Turner. Miles Turner's been hurt a lot. Decent team on paper.
Yeah, I mean
Oladipo contract.
The X factor is going to be Oladipo and how he does coming back from that injury. Again, he missed a good portion of last year. Again, if Oladipo balls out the way that he did a couple of years ago before the injury, they'll be a team that'll be middle of the pack, or again, well, I don't say middle of the pack.
Middle of the playoff pack or middle of the pack like 7-8.
No, they'll be middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference, which they'll be a playoff team, but they won't be a team that's gonna I don't think they're the team at the end of the day that again they make the playoffs. You might think that they do some noise, but then they're just overmatched.
Yeah.
So again, they'll be a 7-8 seed. I would say they're probably more around the 7th because, like I said, I think Oladipo balls out because he wants that contract. Again, there was rumors about him not wanting to be with Indiana, trying to tell all the guys that they should trade for him. If those are
1 year left on the deal, so it's tough too, right?
Yeah, and again, what is he with his leg? He's the X factor. If he plays well, if he gets back to the All-Star level, they could be potentially dangerous. Miles Turner, you never know what you're going to get. I'm a big fan of Brogdon. I like his game. I think that was a great pickup. But overall, they'll be a playoff team. But again, besides that, they won't make much noise.
Next team, Golden State Warriors at 15. Now they have they're starting point guard Steph, and then Wiggins and Oubre will be the 2-3. Mm-hmm. Draymond at the 4, and then at 5, Wiseman looks like he's going to start there. Starting lineup looks pretty legit. They're going to miss Klay Thompson. We know that. It's going to hurt the league as well because he's a great player.
And that's basically the gist of it there.
If Klay Thompson's playing, we're talking about this team as a possible team that could go to the West Final. I think that a lot of people say.
I think that would be a fair assumption.
Now, with Klay not there, what do you think? How do you think this team plays? So we're going to see them in about an hour or so.
I mean, I think they're going to end up being a competitive team and making the playoffs. Again, a lot of it to do with the injuries. Can Steph stay healthy? I liked some of the stuff that I saw from some of the guys that were. I think Pascal has some potential. Eric Pascal has some good potential there. I like the situation with Oubre. I think Oubre in that system might work out well. And then again, it's one of those years of. It's gonna also, I think, a big thing is what are you gonna get from Draymond? Draymond last year was absolutely atrocious. So if he continues that kind of play, they're in trouble. If again, what you're gonna get from Wiggins? If Draymond doesn't get to a situation where he's at least half of what he was, because last year I didn't even know who that guy was.
Okay. I'll jump in when you're done. Yeah.
They might be in trouble, but I believe that Draymond sort of saw the writing on the wall. They're all injured.
Get a top pick,
What
maybe.
get a top pick? Like I'm gonna. He's not a guy that can be a number one option and carry any offense whatsoever.
Which is what I was going to get to. Yeah.
So I mean, now they're back to being competitive. Maybe you'll see the best of them again. But overall, again, they'll make some noise, but I don't. They won't. They're not a Western Conference Final team based off of what. Again, losing Clay, that's for sure. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is just I think that with Zion, when I kind of compared some of the Raptors guys to a much lesser extent offensively, especially with OG is. Obviously, OG's not the playmaker, not the defender that Draymond is. I think that he was in a league of his own when he was younger. I think that, let's say that you swap OG for Draymond Green in that situation. I hate to use his name again, but like if you're saying, hey, go out there and get me points, we know that Draymond's a guy that's going to finish on the pick and roll, hit a wide open three, that kind of stuff. And when Stephen, they had like really a G League team there, and you're like, okay, Draymond, go lead our team in offense. We saw some air balls. We saw some terrible dribbling, and I think that he was so embarrassed. And I think this. I swear to God, I think that he was like, you know what? I'm embarrassing myself. I'm not a guy that you can kind of like make your offense built around.
Your team around, yeah.
I'm injured. Let me rest.
Yeah,
because Steph was gone. Clay was out. Like
there was no point.
Wiggins at this point was like, okay, do your thing. And because, like I said, he's great as your third or fourth guy when he's has to get you 15 points a game. But when your whole team's injured and you say, go get me something, as we saw last year, it's scary.
He needs to be around guys that
can create.
Absolutely.
So we'll move on. Okay, so I guess the question here is, do you see Golden State in the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Me too. Even with this bit of a disaster.
Like I said, there's still a lot of talent there.
Yep. Bench might be thin, but they do have talent. I want to see how Wiseman does.
Now again, if Steph goes down for 60, 70 games, then they're done for. But at the end of the day, that's again.
I think Steph stayed down a bit longer too. It was a broken hand, not like a knee or anything like that. I think it was a broken hand, and he's like, same thing. It's like we're terrible.
Yeah,
Clay's out. Let me sit it out. Right. Next team, very interesting. New Orleans Pelicans. So they bring in Steven Adams as well. Trade Drew Holiday out. They get Bledsoe as well. JJ Redick is still there. Lonzo Ball is playing for a new contract next year. How do you think this team does? I think they're a really big question mark in terms of how new coach as well. Monty Williams, I believe, is back there. How do you think they're going to do?
Well, again, I think Alvin Gentry was definitely thrown under the bus in terms of another guy that probably should not have been fired considering the situation. Again, should they be ranked ahead of Golden State? I don't think so. But again, a lot of it is Zion hype. Yep. Zion hype, right? If he remains healthy and he takes another step, they're expecting superstar status out of Zion. He looks like he lost a bunch of weight, and again, get some
bouncy a little bit.
So again, he came in the league at 280 or something like that. He was a big boy for a rookie. And again, they're trying to keep him healthy. If he has a healthy season, they could potentially.
He's healthy, their playoff team. I think just based on like.
I don't, even with him healthy, I don't have them in here because at the end of the day, there's so much competition out there, and we'll do the rundown of it. But it's a situation when he's healthy, he's a dominant player. But are they going to limit him again? Are they going to give him limited minutes? Are they going to play him limited games? And again, is his knees are going to is it going to be a Greg Oden situation or a Derrick Rose situation? So again, they have the talent. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Lonzo, so I'm not going to go in on that. I like JJ. They did lose Derek Favors, who I did like.
But they bring in Steven Adams, who's an upgrade.
Steven Adams, probably an upgrade. So overall, they have the talent to compete. I think because of the West being so stacked, they're going to have problems making the playoffs. But again, it will all rely on Zion.
Yeah, I just forgot about one team, which is who we're going to get to next. Yeah. Phoenix Suns. A lot of people are on the Phoenix Suns hype train with CP3 there too.
They ended up 8-0 in the bubble. They finally have a point guard there to help them, Booker out. We talked about DeAndre Ayton in terms of what the potential could be there. Yeah. They have some solid pieces in terms of competition. Yeah. And again, you saw what no one really expected much out of the OKC Thunder last year with the trade, and they thought they wouldn't do much. And Chris Paul is able to elevate him, so Paul can have a similar effect. And to me, he's got a better, stronger. I would take Booker over Shea, and I would take Ayton at the end of the day, overall potential over Adams. So they have some players over there, and I think based on how they finished, if they keep that momentum going, obviously they're not going to win every single game, but they have a guy, again, Booker's legit, and he needed that extra little push, and to me, they're a playoff team. They're making the playoffs this year, so
And they're better to you than, are they better than New Orleans
In my
and
opinion.
or Golden State?
I mean, I probably have them getting the last spot probably.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say that they probably get the last spot. And again, that might be the play-in right there. It might be New Orleans and Phoenix in the play-in game. That could be it for 8 and 9.
So they have Bridges starting,
Bridges
Mikal
starting,
Bridges,
yeah.
right? I didn't love what I saw from him last year. I know he's a 3-and-D guy. Didn't shoot the 3 incredibly well. The defense was average to just above average. He's the guy that needs to take a step forward. And then they also brought in, who I'm drawing a blank on, Dreads was in Miami last year, bounced around for a long time.
Oh, Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder's there as well, right? So I think that those two, you bring in 2 tough 3-and-D guys. Bridges obviously was already there. The only reason, and maybe it happens, is where they don't maybe make the playoffs, and this happened before, is Chris Paul gets hurt, right? That's the only. I think that if they're healthy, and Aiden had that suspension for the PEDs, like John Collins did, right? Like if something like that happens, which you can't say it's off the table. If something like that happens, they're done. In a 72-game season, I don't think that they have enough time to make up the games. They need to get off to a strong start. That's the thing with all these teams fighting for the playoffs. It's not like you have time to adjust and find your niche with your team, right? And this is, for the most part, you're bringing in like 3 starters that are like new guys, right? Well, at least Crowder, CP3, and maybe that's it then. They also brought back the guy that Philly had last year, the guy from drawing a blank. He got traded in the deal with.
It wasn't John Herbert, just saying Schwartz.
No, it was a white Euro 3-and-D kind of guy, a bit of a playmaker.
Oh, you're thinking of Saric.
Dario Saric, he's there as
Saric,
well, right?
yes.
So they have some bodies. And like I said, between Phoenix, New Orleans, and Golden State, and then also Houston, I think 2 out of those 4 teams make the playoffs. Now we're gonna get it. We'll move on from them. We'll get into the teams that we think are locks. And we're starting with 12 right now. Utah Jazz. Rudy Gobert, Mr. Rona himself, just got a supermax. Now, is that an overpay? I think so. I know he's defensive player of the
Did
year.
he get the Supermax or only the max?
No, I think he said no to the max. They gave him a super max. I'll check that as we're going into the team. The contract I thought was a little bit overpaid, but like, who are you going to bring in Utah as a free agent, as a star?
The issue with him there is at the end of the day, he's turned into obviously one of the better defensive players in the league, probably obviously a top 2, top 3 defensive player, obviously. I mean, again, you have Davis,
Giannis, and him, I guess, right?
And then at the end of the day, he's become probably, in terms of the center position, it's a limited. He's going to be probably another guy that probably makes a couple more All-Star teams the way it goes.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that he wanted the like super max money, but
5-year, 205.
That's
what he got. The largest deal for a center in NBA history.
Interesting. And that's super max money?
3rd overall behind Giannis and Russell Westbrook. I assume if it's the 3rd highest of all time, I assume it's pretty close to a super max.
At that, I don't think he was gonna get if he was gonna get the kind of contract in those situations.
Mitchell got 195. Like that's 400 million on 2 guys on your
Which
team.
at the end of the day, like it's 2 guys that they've had success but limited success with. So again,
do you see them getting to a West Final?
No.
That's what I mean. If you're gonna lock in 400 mil, I guess the question is, do you have a choice? Do you let them walk?
But it's the kind of situation where remember how many guys do you say, or premier guys say, hey, I'm gonna sign in Utah?
He's not signing there unless they're offering him that kind of money, right?
Well, and there's the situation. You got guys that they drafted and things like that, but Utah's never a prime destination for anybody.
No.
And that's always been a bit of a case. And again, it's kind of like a Cleveland market, things like that. The premier players don't want to play in Utah. And that's the situation, right? So they lock in guys that they're going to have some limited success and then hope for the best.
So Bogdanovich is there. Hopefully we think he's healthy. He didn't go to the bubble. Conley ranked 71 ESPN. Conley looked terrible. I think to be honest, his data, I think, were numbered. He looked really rough.
Pretty much done.
I think Gobert and Mitchell. I obviously see them as a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
They had some bad with the Clippers a few years ago, and there was like a 4-5 last year.
You've always been a Jazz guy at the end of the day.
But I don't think anymore. I'm kind of getting off it now. It's like this is like the last year and this year, like their peak. How much better is Gobert? I don't think is getting much better. He's already who he is, which is a great player.
Joe Ingles.
Joe Ingles, I like. But I don't know. Like, are they going to win 2 rounds in the playoffs? I don't think so. They might win 1, right?
Stacked, right? There's too many teams.
There's too many teams.
Stacked.
Team number 11, Toronto Raptors.
So again, we've already mentioned the Raptors. To me, and I think we've basically, if we go down the thing, we have the Raptors as a 6th seed. We kind of had the same situation.
5-6, something like that, yeah.
like that. We kind of did the same thing last year, and they ended up second in the Eastern Conference at the end of the day. So again, we're obviously keeping the Raptors light based off of what we've seen. Lost Surge, gained Baines,
Lost Surge and Gasol.
But again, Gasol to me was already cooked.
Yeah.
And it all depends on what they get in improvements out of the young guys. We talked about OG already. They're going to need, health is going to play a major role. They're going to make the playoffs. Are the Raptors a championship contending team as currently constructed? I would say no. And again, we're fans, obviously.
Yes or no question. Are they a championship caliber team if they trade Pascal and Norm for Harden? Yes or no?
No. Because even with Harden's not a guy. Kawhi is one thing. Kawhi, you can legitimately say that Kawhi's had success, that you can see proven success with the Spurs.
Harden is still one game away from maybe the best team of all time in Golden State, where they lost in Game 7 with Chris Paul. I know he's had some stinkers.
He's had a lot of stinkers.
He's had some stinkers.
And again, Harden's not the type of guy that I see leading a team to a championship.
No. I'm just saying, like, if you have a guy that you're not going to get, the DeMar or Kyle or Pascal playoff failures, because like I've said 1,000 times on the show, then everybody else comes into their second, third, fourth.
But he has, though, right?
He's also shown success. He's had bad games, but he's also shown really good games.
He's a higher echelon player in terms of DeMar and Kyle. He's a better.
Do they have a better chance with or without Harden, the Raptors? For me, it's an easy yes.
If they trade, depending on who they trade. Now, if
let's
they
just
trade,
say
if they trade the whole
Pascal and Norm, and 3 firsts. So Pascal and Norm.
I would say that if he plays to his potential, they have a better opportunity because he's a better player than. And then Norm, bless his heart, he's still a bench guy more likely than not. He's not a real top end echelon starter. Would you say that Harden's a better player than Pascal? Absolutely.
I'm not saying pull the trigger. I'm just asking.
But it's also it's the culture thing. Like, do these guys play well with Harden? Harden's never been in the Raptors type of offense before. He's a good Nick Nurse.
But no matter where he goes, he got to change his game.
Right.
Back to the Raptors here. So we have Pascal ranked him at 24, Kyle at 30, Fred at 40, OG at 68. You think OG takes a big step this year?
Again, going back to what we were discussing, I think OG is going to be the guy that they're hoping for a Pascal-like step that Pascal had a couple years ago. And that'll be the situation with them. And if he does do that, and maybe he overachieves, they'll be again in the East. If you're looking at the big picture, a lot of it will do with health. That team, even without Kawhi, took the Celtics team, who again you can say maybe got a little bit better, got a little worse. Lost Hayward, Kemba's hurt.
Tristan Thompson.
Tristan Thompson is that going to be a huge improvement on a lot of things? Still in 7 games. Maybe they should not have been in it.
I was going to say, the Raptors were a miracle shot in OG from being swept in that series. Let's not forget. I know that whatever happened, but they got dominated in 3 games.
And we have to go back to, the Raptors have that, and Larry always said it, you need a superstar player to win these championships.
But you don't want Harden.
And again, Harden is a superstar player, but is he a superstar player that'll lead a team to a championship? I don't think so.
There was a lot of questions about Kawhi when he got here. Did he want to play here? Did he want to leave as soon as he got here?
He had pedigree. He had an MVP.
But still question.
He was a champion.
Yeah.
Harden.
You're not gonna. But this is the thing. You're talking about superstars, guys that are gonna come. We talked about Utah. Guys aren't gonna go there.
Yes.
Players love Toronto. None of these guys are gonna sign in Toronto. We saw with Masai. What he did is he rolled the dice. Like you said, he had shown he won a Finals MVP. We knew he's a great player.
Okay.
Coming off a quad injury where he played like 10 games in an 82-game season. Questions about injury. Questions about did he want to play for the Raptors. I think you have to roll the dice if Harden's available.
So you would make that trade.
I don't love trading 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Like that. Like I just don't like that. But you have 2 years with him, and I think that with the guys they have now, to answer the question that I asked you is the team better with Harden, subtracting Norm and Pascal? Yes, in the regular season, and yes in the playoffs. To just nail that head in the
But is that technically true? If Harden goes there and jacks the offense,
I don't think he's going to do that.
It's not. Again, it's not.
If he
it's
goes
not
to Brooklyn, he's not doing that either, right?
It's not 2K, right? Harden can really if he ruins the room, there's a lot, and you saw it. Like the Clippers had better talent. Were they a better team overall? I would say that that 7-game what ended up happening.
We're gonna get to that.
It's rough. So again,
Raptors,
so you're for the Harden thing. I would rather roll my dice and then have Pascal, do some drafting, and then see how it goes from there.
Okay, and hope to get like a superstar in the draft.
Or even get some situations where again start June, or you end up with one of those once in a while you get one of those the Detroit Pistons situations, and you win with a gluttony of really strong players. No star.
It's a pipe dream.
Hey, they
Dallas
probably
Mavericks.
thought it was a pipe dream in
Dallas
Detroit too.
Mavericks number 10. I love Dallas. We'll get to the rankings in a second. They're getting back Powell. They're getting back Powell off the Achilles injury. He looked good in a few preseason games. So I'm like, these guys come off the Achilles injuries. It's a bad injury. I talked about it before. It pretty much forced Kobe Bryant into an earlier retirement. Mm-hmm. But guys, Kevin Durant looks okay. It's going to be interesting to play 72 games this year. But Powell looks good. Seth is gone. They bring in Josh Richardson. Whatever. He's a guy that can play defense where Seth couldn't. They address some issues they have.
Awesome shooting.
Can Porzingis stay healthy?
And that's the question. Expect. Without if Porzingis can't stay healthy, their ceiling. And again, Luka. I have Luka as probably one of the favorites to win the MVP. A guy that could be a walking triple double. Again, can't play a lick of defense still, but again, if Porzingis isn't healthy, they don't have a shot. If Porzingis can remain healthy, they have a shot. And that's basically the gist of it there. Will they make the playoffs? Absolutely. Again, it's all depending on health. But again, they're capped. If Porzingis can't stay healthy, they're capped at a team that's a second round team at best.
Okay. Yeah. Portland, very polarizing team. What do you think about that?
I like Portland.
Okay.
They got rid of. So Whiteside is gone. Mm-hmm. Whiteside went to Sacramento. Nurkic is a big X factor because to me, if Nurkic is back healthy, he's gonna add a lot. I liked the Robert Covington move. I'm low-key a big fan of Covington. He makes wise decisions. A good, I would say borderline great defensive player. Along with CJ Mello and
Gary
Dame,
Trent.
They have, again, if everybody stays healthy, which has been one of their biggest problems, we call Portland a lot of fool's gold a lot. They can cause some problems. I have them as a stronger team than, let's say, Utah. Personally, I think it all depends on the health, and if Nurkic gets back to health, they're going to be a problem. I can see that. I like that starting five. Yeah. I'll tell you right now, that's a solid starting five they have going over there. They're gonna be problematic, and again, if you never know what you're gonna. Dame can ball out for 50 some games. I have them making the playoffs, and they may make some noise with a fully healthy situation. I like that Covington move. That was a big move.
Denver Nuggets at number 8. So they ended up. You bring back obviously Jokic, Murray. You get a season of Porter.
They lost their boy Jeremy Grant.
They lost Jeremy Grant, which is going to hurt a little bit. Getting Will Barton back is going to help him if he's healthy because Will Barton was a guy that was taking that step before he got hurt. I don't think they're as good of a team as they were last year. They've been good for so long regular season. I want to say it's been like 3 or 4 years now. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much upside they have. I know that Murray really showed us something last year in the playoffs. Jokic has showed us things in the playoffs. He's been incredible. Porter, could be an all-star. Mm-hmm. He's so bad on defense that I'm really worried because they don't have a lot of plus defenders. Obviously, we know that Murray is average at best. Yeah. And then Jokic as a center, he's not the most athletic guy, but he can, play his part. I don't know if they have any higher to go than where they were last year in the West. Well, they went to the West Finals last year, man.
Well, and that's the thing. Well, if Murray, and this is the thing again, in the current NBA constructs on how the Clippers and the Lakers are built, they probably don't have that ceiling. In a couple of years, if Murray continues to make some steps, it could happen. I could see it happen. I think a lot of people have said that they can see the team, and maybe they need one more piece. And if Porter ends up,
I don't know. That's what I was going to say. Porter is probably that piece, right?
If he ends up getting into that all-star level, they're going to be a problem. I think Murray took a huge step in the bubble in some of the stuff that he was pulling off. If he can continue that type of production, they can be a big time problem. Jokic does some stuff that you just. I don't. I was looking at that photo when he was a kid. The passport photo where he was a kid, where he was like so huge. Overweight, and man, he does some things with the basketball for a guy that size. You just don't think that's gonna happen. He's a special talent. They can be a problem, I think, but they're needing that echelon from Porter Jr. or somebody to be that third.
But even now, like, I'm looking at their bench or like who they have second. Like they do have guys. So they brought in Jermichael Green, who didn't get enough playing time with the Clippers last year.
Mhm.
I like him. Gary Harris has fallen off a cliff. That guy looked like a border. He almost looked like a CJ McCollum in terms where it's like he could make the All-Star team every year. Shoots the three really good defender. I don't know what happened. Last year he did absolutely nothing. I don't like this is a massive year for him because he got paid. He's never been the same as he got paid. Monty Morris, they kept him and they traded Malik Beasley. Remember both those guys were shooters coming off the bench. I like Monty Morris too. And then Millsap, who's looked really good in the preseason. He at the end of the year really faded, and he's obviously got to be like 34 at least now. I want to say, right?
Yeah, 34, 35. He's pretty much done.
But he's gonna start for. He's probably gonna start for.
He's
them,
on.
I
He's
wanna
on.
say,
He's on
right?
those like he's
Last
on that
legs.
Marc Gasol last legs
Yeah.
type situation.
So now, like I said, like I look at their team, they have a little bit more depth than I remember. But at the same time, like, can they be one of the last? Like, are they going to be one of the last teams standing in the West? I think that a lot of things went right for them last year. They caught the Clippers sleeping. They made it to the West Finals.
That's fair.
I thought that like if they were going to beat
Tough
the
series
Lakers,
against Utah.
like based on momentum and stuff, like last year was the year where at least you get to the finals.
I mean,
Play
like I said,
Miami in the finals, you win.
It really depends on the continued progression of Murray and Michael Porter Jr. If Porter Jr. takes that All-Star level that you're talking about, they'll be a problem. If he doesn't, if Murray doesn't continue that progression, then yeah, I agree with you. They're capped out.
Okay, we're going to move on to Philly, ranked at 7. So a lot of change with them. They brought in Seth Curry, them at 91, Tobias Harris 57. Tobias Harris, an above-average player, getting paid damn near a supermax, 190 billion, which is
They
insane.
got rid of the Horford contract. At least they were able to do that.
Simmons, Embiid,
Danny Brickhouse Green joins
Danny
the team.
Green's there, right? Like
He's
it's a
up,
very
right?
different team. I think they needed to really get some shooters, and they did that with Curry and Green.
Yeah, I think Green, as much as I was one to criticize him last year because at times I thought he was just
In the playoffs,
atrocious.
he wasn't great.
He's another guy that he's known to be a very good shooter. I don't know how much he has left, to be honest. It might be one of his last years. He's definitely. I liked, again, besides the whole defensive, I thought Seth Curry gave the Mavericks a hell of a good run, especially towards the end where he was a legitimate option there for Luka. He takes basically what JJ Redick was for them a couple years ago. To me,
I think JJ's a better player though still.
yeah, and I would agree with that, and I would still think that JJ's a better shooter as well. Overall, again, new coach, maybe a new system. It's another make it or break it year, and I think I've mentioned this already on the pod. This is going to be it. If for some reason they get first round exits swept like they got last year, I think they got swept by the Celtics. It's over.
Yes.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
They can't continue, and again they might go in for Harden and trade Ben Simmons because again you have those Rockets ties with Daryl Morey over there. Yeah, this is going to be it. If for whatever reason they don't get Simmons and Embiid on the same page, one of them's gone. I would assume it's going to be Simmons. I would assume. Simmons can't shoot.
Yeah.
It's again Embiid's a guy that's more built for the current NBA system. If you can't shoot in the NBA right now, it's problematic. Even though again Simmons can defend, he's a great defender. Pass the ball like nobody's business.
Yeah.
But he can't shoot with a lick. He's scared to take 3-pointers. A guy that's 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is.
Yeah.
And again, so they'll make the playoffs. They could potentially, if things go right for them, be a problem for somebody in the East. A matchup in the East, but for right now, again, they didn't have Simmons in the playoffs, but again, Celtics would still wipe them for the most part if they continue on the same.
I don't know.
Continue on
I
the
think
same
we're
kind
gonna get
of
to that
spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think that their biggest issue last year was just a total lack of shooting, especially from the guard spots. Because when you have Simmons, you really need shooting.
Yeah.
They had Milton there for a bit. He had some games, but they brought him on at the end. Curry's going to be really good for them, obviously for the spacing, because there's few guys in the league that are better shooters than him.
I agree.
His brother and maybe like JJ, maybe Joe
Harris.
Joe Harris in Brooklyn. Like there's very few guys in the top tier. And then, like I said, you also they brought in who's the other one they brought in the shooter?
They got rid of Richardson.
Oh, Green. Which I still think Danny Green in the regular season can still shoot at least 35% from 3. That's all he's doing.
Fair enough.
Play him 20 minutes, shoot
He
enough
can play
threes
some
to
D.
play guys
He can play
to
some
keep
D.
guys honest on, right? Give some space.
Just don't give him the ball in terms of having to shoot
Don't
a
ask him
layup.
to do anything. Don't ask him to do anything else. But I like them. I think it's tough in the regular season. I don't know how much better they would be, like in terms of ranking them with Boston. We're gonna get to that.
So they're a better team than last year.
I think they're a better team than last year because they addressed the lack of shooting. Which same when I talked about Westbrook. I think having spacing with an athletic team like Simmons and Embiid is going to do them wonders because there's space to maneuver.
So would you trade Simmons for Harden?
I don't think so.
You don't think
No,
so?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
Well, why would you? Like, I think it's easier to get shooting than to trade Simmons, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, ball handler, all that stuff. He's a very interesting and rare and strange player.
But he would be great if you learned how to shoot.
Yeah,
more than great actually. He'd be a super.
But it's easier to find a Seth Curry than it is to find to trade and then bring in, like you said, a problem like Harden.
Yeah, fair enough.
So to answer the question, I think that the Celtics might finish with a better regular season than them, but I think that Philly might be able to beat them in the playoffs. Now we're going to get to Boston. So Boston is bringing back pretty much the same team, except they lost.
Wanamaker.
Wanamaker's going to Golden State, and then Gordon Hayward went to Charlotte.
Which to
he's
me,
been in and out of the lineup.
Which to me, you
see that as a better.
I mean, I've never been a Gordon Hayward guy, especially when he came to Boston. I thought that him and Brad Stevens, I think Brad gave him a lot of minutes from his Butler days, and they were together there. I was never a big proponent. I think, unfortunately, though I kind of hate his guts after what happened with the Raptors last year. Marcus Smart will get a lot more minutes. Marcus Smart, his shooting percentage is rather terrible, but he makes them better defensively. He hits big shots. They're lack again. Bringing Tristan Thompson was to put in their.
Why not? They needed size.
Yeah. They're still their bench. The depth is kind of a problem. So that'll be an issue for them because they had guys like Wanamaker was a guy that at the end of the day was a big role for them on the bench. Kemba's injured. And now they brought in
Jeff Teague.
Jeff Teague. He's gonna end up being for a while. We can do some things. So he'll be the backup afterwards. They'll be again. Jason Tatum I think has another level to go to. So
Jaylen Brown's gonna get better.
Jaylen Brown again is another guy. So they'll be up there again. Or could they possibly? I probably thought that they should have probably made the finals. I had them over the Heat. Yeah. Considering now that you have the Brooklyn situation, are they going to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals? It pretty depends on the matchups. I think that they have the talent to, but we'll see what happens with the lack of bench scoring and if Kemba. Kemba was their biggest problem last year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He just was while he was injured or whatever the heck he had. He wasn't great, and he ended up costing them probably a spot in the finals because of his lackluster play.
Miami Heat number 5. Now, we've seen teams get to the final or get to the conference final, exceed expectations, and then not kind of have the same season the next year. Sure. We saw that with Portland, injuries. Denver, I'm saying the same thing. I don't think Denver gets to the Western Conference final again. Miami Heat made it to the final. A lot of things went right for them. We talked about at the beginning of the year, last year, when they beat the Raptors. I feel like they beat the Raptors every time they played them almost. I was at one of the games in overtime at the beginning of the year.
Heat?
Yeah, like it was since they got Jimmy Butler, they've been a different team.
Well, the Raptors beat the Heat in the bubble, I remember.
No, but I'm saying like before, in the
they
actual
were a good
regular
team.
season.
They were a tough matchup for the Raptors with Bam. Bam always gave Pascal
The
problems.
Raptors scored like 70-something points in Miami in one of the regular season games. How do you think Miami is this year?
So again, the Miami situation, you look at, again, we've talked about how Jimmy and Bam and so on. Again, they gave Gordon Dragic a new contract. I thought, to be honest, before last year, I thought Dragic was another guy that was on his last legs. I thought he was literally maybe a year or two from retirement. He got paid.
2-year deal instead of a 50 year.
Bam's gonna be better. I would assume Bam's gonna take another step. So he's gonna be solid.
He's gonna be better.
A lot of their will rely upon they lost Crowder. They ended up losing again the dunker from Space.
Derrick Jones.
They lost Derrick Jones. A lot of it's gonna be on the adaptation of what they're gonna get from Duncan Robinson,
Hero again,
and Jack Harlow's favorite basketball player, Tyler Hero. Shout out to that song; it's actually a pretty legit song.